In Chapter 5, we will be learning about multi-view drawings. So let's say, for example, you have a three-dimensional part that needs to be drawn out. It'd be very tough to describe all the features and geometry of that part with one view. Even if you had hidden lines that show you geometry through the part, you couldn't exactly describe all the sizes and shapes of the three-dimensional part. So you generally would start with a top view of it and then rotate it 90 degrees down and give yourself a front view, and then rotate 90 degrees to the side and give yourself a side view. To aid in connecting geometry from one view to another, use hidden lines. For example, this hidden line right here represents the back of this arc, and these hidden lines represent these lines in the back here, which means really this view is looking from this direction, and this view generally is from this side. So to draw a multi-view drawing, you make a lot of construction lines that are offset from each other, basically a grid that is customized to these different sizes. And you basically start with a boxed area with a bunch of lines through it, and we'll switch layers to an object layer so we can organize between our construction lines and our object lines. That way later we can turn off our construction layer. And we're just going to start connecting the dots between the intersections of construction lines. So I'll now open a new file and start that. So I'm going to start off by setting up my snap and grid. So I'm going to go to my drafting settings under the tools. I'm going to go to snap and grid and make sure my grid XY and my snap X and Y are set to 0.5. Then I'll press OK. And I want to go to my property layers and set up some layers. So I have quite a few already set up here, but we want to basically set up a construction layer and an object layer. To do so, you'll just simply press the New Layer button and then type in the name of that layer. For example, construction. When you press Enter, it'll then switch to a layer that you can use. You can then change the color of the layer by pressing the color and then changing it to whatever you want. And as well as you can change your line type by clicking the line. And you generally won't see many lines other than a continuous line. So if you want to load a new line, you go to Load, and you have many different lines you can choose from through this. So for example, if I want to just use it, I'll hit OK, and then I'll choose the line I just loaded and press OK. Notice how it then changes it to that line type. As well as the line weight, you can also change the thickness of your line by just clicking on that and changing to different thicknesses. When you're done, we'll set the layer that we want to use to current by selecting the layer and clicking the green checkbox. It's prompting me that it's turned off, which that means that this light bulb right here tells you whether the layer is visible or not, or in this case turned on and turned off. So if by simply clicking it, I can turn the layer back on. So the first thing I want to do is make a vertical construction line. So before I make that, I want to turn on my grid and my snap, and I want to view the whole area. So I'm going to go to View and Extents, which will adjust my graphics area so I can view most of the area. I'm going to go back to Home and press the down arrow in the Draw toolbar and select my construction line. I'm going to snap to some point in the lower left-hand corner, in that approximate area. And notice I can now make a different angled construction line. However, I want a vertical line, so I'm just going to snap to a point above it. When I'm done, I'm going to right-click. Now I'm going to turn my snap off, because I no longer need it. I'm going to go to Offset. With Offset, I'm going to take this line and duplicate it a certain distance away, or offset the line. So it's now prompting me for a distance for this offset, so I'm going to enter a 5 and press my spacebar. Now I'm going to press the line I want to offset, and then I'm going to click in the direction I want to offset it in, so either to the right or to the left of the line. So I'm going to click to the right of it. So I'm going to go back to construction line, and for a horizontal line I'm just going to input an H for horizontal and spacebar. And then I'm just going to click an arbitrary point that intersects these lines. So now I'm going to go to my offset tool and input a distance of 2.5 for my next horizontal line. Press the line I want to offset, and then the direction I want to offset it in. Repeat that. Do 1.5. Press the spacebar to exit and the spacebar to re-enter. Enter a 3. And I can either press the spacebar or the enter, but I like to use the spacebar. Now I'm going to do all my vertical lines based after this 5-inch offset. So now I'm going to re-enter the command, do an offset of 1.5, and one more time an offset of 3 inches. My next step here is I'm going to switch to my object line, and now I'm going to go to Tools, Drafting Settings, and go over to Object Snap. With Object Snap, it allows me to snap my cursor to specific locations in my drawing, as long as the Object Snap is turned on. Generally, when I draft, I'll have the majority of these on. However, sometimes it can become a nuisance, and it'll snap to locations you don't want it to snap to. So for now, we're just going to have the endpoint, center, intersection, extension, and tangent turned on. Once you've done that, you can press OK. Now to turn on and off your object snap, you can either press down here in the status bar the object snap button, notice it turns gray, or it'll turn blue for on. And we can also press the F3 button on the keyboard to toggle it on and off. Now we're going to draw lines that represent the general area where our drawings are going to go. So again, I'm on my object layer. So now my lines will show blue. And I'm basically just snapping to the intersection points of these construction lines. So I'm going to exit the command with the spacebar and re-enter it with the spacebar. And now I'm just going to connect these lines here, just picking the points where these construction lines intersect. And one last one. So now we're set up to have a top, front, and side view. Now I want to use my offset tool. I want to offset 1 inch from the side and from the bottom here. Next, I'm going to use my trim tool, which is in the Modify toolbar. I'm going to choose the majority of the lines I want to trim away. So to do that, I'm going to choose this line, this line, and these 2 lines. I'm going to right click and now choose the lines I want to get rid of, which is this back one and these 2. Once I'm done that, I can press Escape to get out of the command or the spacebar. And I'm going to start projecting some geometry from this front view up to the top view. So I'm going to grab my line tool, and then AutoCAD has this thing called object tracking. So I just bring my cursor over a certain point, and it'll track that point. Notice how I have a little orange cross about that point, and I'll make a dashed line in a perpendicular direction. So I'm going to snap at the intersection of this top view, and then I'm going to bring my cursor down to this point again, and slowly bring it back and make an intersection of this top. Now I have another perfectly vertical line that lines up with this surface right here. Once we've done that, I'm going to offset a few lines in this top view at 1 inch. Now I'm going to make a few angled pieces back here, and to help me with that, I'm going to use the Object Snap toolbar. So I'm going to Tools, Toolbars, AutoCAD, and Object Snap. So I'm going to use the line command here, and I'm going to use the Snap From tool. So what I want to do is draw an angle that's down in this area right here. So to do that, I'm going to use the Snap From tool. I'm going to click the first point I want to snap from. I'm going to enter on the keyboard at 0, 0.25. Enter. Notice how it snapped me to the top right there. Now I'm going to do that again by pressing the Snap From button. I'm going to pick the corner I want to snap from. And again, these are relative coordinates, so it's a coordinate based off that corner, that lower right-hand corner of the top view. I'm going to enter at -1.75, 0. Press enter, and now I have my line snapped there. I'm going to press the spacebar to exit the command. I'm going to press the spacebar one more time to re-enter the command. And I'm going to do the exact same thing on the top here, but my relative coordinates are going to be a little different. So I'm going to use the Snap From tool, choose my Snap From point, I'm going to enter a coordinate of at 0, -0.25. I'm going to use the Snap From tool one more time, and I'm going to enter a distance of at -1.75, comma 0. When I'm finished, I'll press the spacebar. Just kind of move this guy out of the way here. And now we're going to use that Snap From tool again, and we're going to snap to a location in the center of this for a circle. So I'm going to grab my center, my center radius circle. I'm also going to choose the Snap From, so I can choose this midpoint. And again, these are relative coordinates, so I want to go back. So I type in at -2.25, 0. So it places my circle, and then I don't really have to input a radius because I know what the diameter or the radius is here, which is straight up and down from this point. Now I'm going to use the Trim tool to trim this geometry. So I'm going to choose the Trim tool. I'm actually just going to drag a window over the top view here, but I'm going to draw a window from the left to right. That way I'm only selecting the geometry inside of that window. I'm going to right click and then choose the geometry I want to remove. So I want to get rid of these parts in the front and this center line. Once I've chosen lines I want to remove, I should have a part that looks like that. Now I'm going to press the spacebar to get out of the command, and now I'm going to open up the Offset tool. Offset distance of 0.5. So I'm going to choose this bottom line in the middle, the bottom line here. Re-enter the command with the spacebar after I exit. Type in 0.25. Just choose the back and forward. Now I'm going to re-enter the trimmed command by simply selecting it. And I'm just going to drag a window over this back section here. Make sure the moves are selected, that way I can just remove the ones I want. Then going to right click, and I want to remove this back corner piece, as well as the lines in the middle here, and as well as this line. When I'm finished, I'm going to press escape, and then I'm going to choose the lines I couldn't remove with the trim command by just simply selecting them, then pressing the erase button. Okay, now we're going to turn our construction, or we're going to keep our construction layer on, and we're going to draw a miter line. So first, I'm going to turn my switch back to my construction layer. I'm going to draw a miter line right here. This miter line is going to help us project geometry from this top view onto the side view, as well as later we're going to project geometry from this front view to the side view. Very helpful in making these views. So I'm going to get out my construction line tool. I'm going to make horizontal lines. I'm going to put an H for horizontal, and then with this top view, anytime I run across any type of horizontal geometry like this back line, I'm going to make a construction line for it, as well as any type of center line like the center of the circle. One more line I have to make for this point down here, and I forgot to point it up here. Now we're going to re-enter the construction tool, and we're going to make a vertical line. So I'm going to put a V for vertical, and anytime a horizontal line crosses this miter line, I'm going to make a vertical line. Now this might start looking really hectic, but just do your best to keep track of the lines that you've created. Now I'm going to switch back to my object line. I'm going to start filling in some of these solid lines. And remember, this is a view as if you're looking towards this object from the side. Next, I'm going to draw a few hidden lines and center lines, so you got to make sure you add those to your layers. That way you can use them, as well as make sure for the center line you add the center line for line type, and for your hidden line use the hidden line type. So then I'm going to exit out of this. I'm going to switch to my hidden line layer. Let me just use the line command again, and anytime I have a line right here that I want to make hidden, I'll just snap to it. I'll exit and re-enter the command with the spacebar. Now I'm going to switch to my center line. Use the line command, and for center lines I want to snap approximately a 1/4 inch past the part in both directions. So now I have my center line, and I'm going to turn off the construction layer so we can see our part more visually. And now I'm going to add a few lines here so we can use them for trimming. Switch back to my object layer. Use the line command. Choose this point, and I'm going to enter on the keyboard at 2. I'm going to make the left caret symbol, which stands for angle, -30. Hit the spacebar to exit the command, hit the spacebar to re-enter the command, and now I'm going to enter on the keyboard at 2, angle 210. So now I have these lines that I can trim eventually. I'm going to, before I do the trim command, I'm going to snap a line across here which represents a plane. So I'm going to bring my cursor over this point and then snap to an intersection on this line, And then I'm going to snap to another intersection based off the same point over here. Now I'm going to bring out my trim tool. And I'm going to trim away a bunch of this geometry. So I'm simply just going to select all of it, right click, and I'm going to start removing the parts I don't want. So basically just reference your actual drawing in the book to see the lines that you want to remove or keep. And when we're finished, I'm going to right click and choose enter, and then I'm going to choose the lines I couldn't trim and just erase them. I'm also going to readjust this center line by just simply clicking the grip and moving it. Now I actually wasn't supposed to remove these hidden lines because they represent the lines back here that go straight down the part. So I'm simply going to use the extend command to fix that. So I'm going to choose extend, which is the down arrow next to trim. Press the lines I want to extend to, right click, and then choose the lines I want to extend. Now I've re-extended those lines. Now I want to start adding a few more lines for the side view. Sorry, for the front view. Use the line command, and I want to use object tracking from that point and from that point, and where they intersect is where my first line is going to go back to the front here. And now I'm going to add another line. So use the line command. And I want to snap where where this hidden line is, back to this line, intersection. If you have too many object tracking snaps located, it'll be hard to find. So to get rid of those, you just go over them again, and the object tracking will turn off for that particular snap you've made. So I'm going to snap to this back line, and I'm going to snap to that point one more time, and then to this point above it. That way I get my next point, and then straight down. Choose a point down here, and then I exit the command with the spacebar. Now I'm going to do the same sort of thing to create this point right here. Go to my construction line layer, and we're going to turn that layer on, and then just draw a vertical construction line. And put V for vertical, and make a line back here. The same with the center. Now I'm going to turn that layer off. And switch to my object line layer. Sorry, I'm going to switch to my hidden line layer. Go to my line command. And I want to turn my construction layer back on because I didn't mean to turn it off. And I'm going to make this a hidden line. And switch back to my center line. And make a center line that's approximately a quarter inch off the surface in both directions. And now, since I have my construction lines open again, I'm going to make a few more center lines. One that goes through this part right here. And one that goes through the center of the circle. Now I'm going to turn off my construction layer one more time, so now I can see our actual multi-view drawing that we've just made. And we can do a little bit of evaluating of our part. Say, for example, we want information about this line right here. We can simply select it, click the down arrows in the properties in the ribbon tool panel, and click on list. List information will show up, giving us information about its coordinates, its length, its angle, and so on. We can exit out of this, and we can also go to the View portion of the Ribbon Tool panel, and we can use the Properties. So we can select Properties, and then choose the line we want properties for. And we can see right off the bat what layer it's on, what color it is, line thickness, and as we scroll down you can even see the angle and length. And if you want, you can change these values as well. So I'll exit out of that, press the escape command to deselect everything. And there you have your first multi-view drawing.